It's time for EdTech Mondays, brought to you by MasterCard Foundation and CC Hub.
Welcome to another amazing episode of EdTech Mondays Nigeria, a platform that facilitates critical conversations on the use of technology for teaching and learning. I am Chinyelu Akpa, your host on the show, and it's good to be here again. This Monday, we'll be continuing our conversation on the very broad topic technology as an enabler of alternative education. Last week, we started the conversation laying the groundwork on what alternative education means and how technology can make or mar the learning process for young Nigerians who decide to follow the path of alternative education. We establish the barriers, the challenges in the adoption of alternative education, and also determining what technology can do to improve access to alternative education programs in Nigeria. This week, we will be taking the conversation a notch higher and we'll be discussing how to empower youth through tech enabled life skills and leadership learning. Empowering youth through tech enabled life skills and leadership learning. As we expand access to alternative education through technology, we must go beyond academic content. For young people navigating complex social and economic realities, education must also build leadership, life skills, and civic awareness. In this episode, we explore how alternative learning programs, particularly those delivered through digital platforms, can equip Nigerian youths to thrive. How are tools like AI powered guidance platforms transforming how young people make career and life choices? What platforms are helping learners engage deeply with both content and community? And what role should traditional institutions, government, schools, and donors play in scaling these innovations? We are joined again by two amazing Nigerian youths who are driving youth focused education programs to examine what's working, what's emerging, and what it will take to build truly tech enabled education systems for Nigeria. Our same guests from last week, Mustafa and Eriolua, and they'll be continuing the conversation with us. Hello, Mustafa and Eriolua again. It's good to have you here. Now, let's go straight into the conversation. We started last week discussing what alternative education is and the importance. You established, Mustafa, last week that alternative education will cater to the personalized learning needs of young Nigerians. The traditional school systems cannot do everything. If you have up to 100 students in a classroom, a teacher would typically be unable, one teacher would be unable to understand what child A to child 100 or child 1 to 100 would need, down to their leadership, developmental, every skill that they need to learn. So most times they are stuck within the ambit of just academics and can't go beyond that. So let's start from there. How can alternative education programs support skills such as leadership skills, life skills, and civic responsibility?
Thank you so much for that very important question. Alternative education, first off, the main offering of alternative education, it's not to replace traditional education, schooling per se. It's meant to support and augment what it currently does by providing specialized form of learning for learners. Depending on the individual need of each learner, first off, there are skills that are very essential, particularly soft skills ranging from communication, citizenship, accountability, active leadership, amongst other soft skills that every learner should have. But beyond this, every learner has innate ability that needs to be developed. myself, I might probably be more interested in arts, while the person sitting next to me is more interested in sports. But because traditional education does not cater to the individual needs of these skills, alternative education can help each of these learners own their skills better, improve better at it, and gain more proficiency in each of these.
Thank you so much for asking that question. My friend here, Mustafa, already said many amazing things already. One of the things that we need to bear in mind is that the world is now a global, ecosystem and village, and many young people in Nigeria are also willing to learn a lot of things that can allow them thrive globally. So this alternative education system, allows you to also learn other relevant skills that are useful in other climes, and also just allow you to become a well-rounded global citizen, which is actually very necessary in this world. So you're not bounded by the limitations of your environment. So this soft skill, this leadership training, all of these forms of things that you can get through alternative education prepares you for being a full global citizen. So I think that it helps in that regard a whole lot.
Now, I'd like to refer to a conversation that's a response you gave in answer to a question I asked last week, where you mentioned that there is this study you had read where about just 30% of people who take on trainings, on online platforms complete them. How can we begin to design alternative education programs better to ensure that we solve this problem? Because we've now established these are things we need to teach young Nigerians, and traditional school systems will not do it for us. And that's where technology comes in. Speaking as someone who does these programs and possibly has designed curriculums, what should people who are designing, the developers, the EdTech organizations, look out for? How do young people want to learn? And how can we design these programs tech-enabled, on these platforms, digitized platforms, that would ensure that these young people start them and finish them, and that the quality remains great?
Thank you so much for asking. I believe strongly we are not meant to live in isolation as human beings. So we need one another to survive. So because of that premise, that's why many people don't complete online programs that they sign up for. It is easier for a group of people to do something together than for one person to just do it in isolation. So one of the things that we have seen that has improved a lot of retention in online programming, because we design a lot of online programming in my organization, that allows young people to start and do an 11-month long learning journey or a 5-month long learning journey, is community. So when you bring like-minded people together via technology, they're in different parts of the world, but there's a system of bringing them together. There are things that they can do. They can communicate when they can hold one another accountable with body systems and many of those things. Then they get to actually complete many of these programs. So if you are designing a learning program as an EdTech entrepreneur or a developer or whatever role you play in the EdTech space, and you're trying to build online programs or alternative forms of learning, you need to focus a lot on community. So I remember in my early days, I spent about maybe 3 years just working as a community organizer and just asking, how do you want to learn? I know what they need to learn, but how do they want to learn it? What kind of ways of engagement should we begin to introduce? So I strongly believe that community organizing and building community around learning, because people live in communities, that's why schooling thrives. Because most times you don't go to school because of the teacher. Sometimes you go to school because you are your best friend. You have to just have some conversations, or during break, there is a game that you won last week and you want to win again. So so all of those kind of things actually keep people stay grounded to systems. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Erelua, for this, and really showing the power. I think this is what they call cohort-based learning, right? And making young people learn in groups, cohorts, where they are interacting with themselves and still able to have that in-school experience, even though they are doing it online. See, in case you're an EdTech developer, you're a builder, this is the point where we have dropped a nugget for you that you should put into the design of your EdTech solution. Thank you so much, Erilua. Now, coming to you, Mustafa, you recently launched Rafiki AI, and this tool helps and prepares students in making career decisions. Why Rafiki AI, and what is Rafiki AI, solving for through technology? Why did you think it was something you needed to do?
Thank you so much for the question. At KLCI, we identified a very big gap, and the gap was simple. Upon graduation, many young Nigerians, many young people, most especially those in marginalized and underserved community, do not have a sense of what they want to do or what's next. We started small by going from schools, going to communities to educate them. Oh, these are career pathways. These are choices that you can make based on your interest, passion, and skill. But we understood the fact that we could not scale. We are just a group of volunteers, and access is very wide, and the gap is too wide. In other part of the world, career guidance comes in many varied forms. There is the school counselor. There is a professional adult in the community that anybody can walk up to. There is LinkedIn recommendation, and there are professional parents that are able to guide
Support
their
us,
students,
yeah.
their
Wards or children.
wards or children. But here in Africa, and most especially Nigeria, underserved communities, parents are trying to make ends meet. So essentially, they don't have knowledge of those. But we are unable to reach as many communities as we would have liked to reach. So we started by going to different communities to sensitize them, mainly through our one of our offerings, that's the Skill to Rural Boot Camp. It's a 2 week career training boot camp where we introduce students to different skills that they need to choose their career paths and grow from there, and even design solutions for their community problems through design thinking. But doing this, we understood that there was limitation in access and reach. So with the advent of AI and the proliferation of technology, we saw a need and a powerful tool that can help us reach more people at the same time. And that was why we built Rafiki AI. So with Rafiki AI, it's an AI-powered chatbot, a WhatsApp-based chatbot. Why WhatsApp? Because WhatsApp is easily accessible to many communities in underserved communities. And what Rafiki does, it helps you identify and build a career guide in less than 2 minutes.
Wow, 2 minutes.
In less than 2 minutes. All you need is hello Rafiki, and Rafiki keeps the conversation going. It does not just answer you and leave you to yourself. It helps you identify your strength and how you can maximize your strength to build a proper career out of it.
So how can parents or young people who need to use this tool get on Rafiki AI? And how are we sure that it understands the context of the Nigerian learner? Because that's what we're saying, technology is technology. It doesn't understand Igbo, Yoruba, Hausa, Ibibio, Anang, anything. But how does a child who is in Kafanchan be assured that when they prompt Rafiki AI, it understands that they are in northern Nigeria and it understands that, this is what the context is within northern Nigeria, and it gives them the support. Because this is where we talk about the quality thing. If people are building, what's the assurance that these tech-enabled alternative education platforms understand the context of whoever they're interacting with and can provide that type of wholesome support? So 2 questions, this and how do they get on board Rafiki AI?
Thank you so much for the question once again. To start with, the good thing about Rafiki is it was built by people that understand the contextual situation. We understood the quality gap, and that was what we are solving for. We did not just jump from holding community bootcamp to building Rafiki. We developed a model, ISLP model we call this, that we used to create a book co-authored by Kayode Alabi. So this model helps to understand the interest, strengths, limitation, and potential of learners. And with the contextualization of Rafiki currently understands the Nigerian context, and Rafiki exists in over 50 languages. Rafiki understands over 50 languages, so you can chat with Rafiki in English, Yoruba, Hausa, Igbo, and other popular languages across the globe, over 52 of them. And currently, the user base of Rafiki has grown up to over 5,000 users in less than 2 months of launch. So Rafiki understands context, and that is why, because it was built based on the understanding of the contextual problem of lack of access to career guidance. And with Rafiki, it can be accessed on WhatsApp.
So you can access from WhatsApp. That's really great. Now over to you, Erelu, and this is our final question. How can governments, donors, and mainstream schools begin to collaborate with providers of tech-enabled alternative education to reach more learners?
We already have been seeing a lot of collaborations. We just, no novel collaboration out there. We know that the government is actually doing a lot. And I know donors are now listening to, technology infrastructure is a very big problem. And I know that there are a lot of efforts trying to reduce the increase more penetration of technology across Nigeria communities, and I've seen a lot. So if the infrastructure is being solved, that's what we know that the government has to provide. The infrastructure basis, then the developers and everybody can build on that infrastructure. I think one of the major challenges that we're facing right now is that we don't have enough data centers in Nigeria. So if we have maybe more data centers, it can help, because all of these learners engaging with these platforms, they are generating a lot of information. They are generating a lot of things. So if we have more data centers, we can store that. We can have more indigenous data centers, and our information is being recycled by us. We are not taking our information to some other country that can actually inform other decisions. But I think that for donors, other ways that they can support is to ensure that it's not just enough to provide the technology. You also have to provide explainers. Right, so you see a lot of apps that don't have basic explainers of how to use the app, and it's because when you actually see, there's no ability to fund that kind of thing. So because they don't give money for activation, most times we'll say, "Oh, just build this." It's just project-based funding and donations that we have. So more funding needs to be more flexible, so that it can meet the realities of the community that these things are being
And the
implemented
eventual
by.
end users.
And the eventual end users, and also we need to have more learning centers, digital learning centers. If we have more, maybe even if we have 774 local governments, if we have just one learning center that is active in each local government, it will make life easy for all the developers, because even if you want to deploy a solution, you don't have to necessarily bother about, okay, will they have the technology infrastructure or facility to access it. You can just partner with any of the learning centers and deploy a solution there, and any young person just needs to find their way to the learning center. So I think that these are ways that the government and that people can help.
Great, thank you. And I'll come to you, Mustafa. As someone who has a tool, you know what you want, right? So let's just give it to you at this point.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Part of what we want is going to be partnership and collaborations across board. It's not enough that we partner with schools. We have to partner with teachers, because at the long run, teachers and parents, they are the people that brings their words on board. Without the partnership of parents and teachers and even communities that are going to use these resources, we are only building just for building's sake. But with the users in mind, just like we've built, getting them on board to use the resource that we've built is a very long way to go. Getting governments on board in terms of policy, it will go a long way if we have a policy within the Nigerian education sector that allows for the adoption and use of technology. Because a very big problem that we've came to understand after building this Rafiki AI is the fact that before you get any school, most especially government school, to adopt, you have to go to the ministry, write letters upon letters, do follow-ups. And the longer time we spend doing all of this, the more the gaps gets to widen. So, but when there is resources like this, with policy in place that can help easy adoption into institutions, and when government schools adopt things like this, to get private institutions to do it becomes even more easier, because the government brings
An assurance,
an assurance that this is working.
This works.
Yes, and for funders and donors, there is nothing that works better for a Nigerian context than a Nigerian product. We cannot import solutions. We can only adopt them. So for solutions that understand the nuances and context of Nigerian problems, those are why I think you get funded in the Nigerian to solve a Nigerian problem. You cannot use the idea of foreign tech products that are built with the context of the foreigners in mind to solve a Nigerian problem that is very peculiar to the Nigerian community. So the understanding of these and where they put their funds into can also help to go a long way in helping us get these products to the end users easy.
Thank you, Mustafa, for that beautiful conclusion. The government needs to open up their schools and just simplify the processes to really work with them. Imagine an amazing solution like Rafiki AI that's providing career guidance to students being used across public schools across Nigeria. It solves more than half of the problems you have, with students going into universities, tertiary institution, and just ensuring that they know what they want to do and can get the right kind of support. And additionally, I liked what you said, that donor organizations, donor funders should begin to fund Nigerian products, Nigerian solutions. And that is what organizations like MasterCard Foundation are doing with the MasterCard Foundation EdTech Fellowship, where they are, supporting startups who are building Nigerian solutions built by Nigerians, understanding Nigerian educational problems and wanting to improve learning outcomes at the end of the day. Thank you so much, Mustafa Nerilua. It's good to have you here again. And to you, our listeners, I know you're itching. You want to try out Rafiki AI. Do you have your pen and paper with you? Here's the number: +1555 722 8341. I'll take that again. To try Rafiki AI, if you're a parent, you're a guardian, you're a school owner, you're in government, and you want to see how this solution would help, support young learners who are trying to make informed decisions about their career, go on now to Rafiki AI +1555 722 8341. And we'd love to hear from you, our listeners. How are alternative education programs supporting mainstream education systems? Are you a parent? Are you a guardian? Are you a student who has had to take part in an online alternative learning program? Do you do it as an individual? Do you do it in a group? As Erelua said, what was your experience? Do you feel that you got the right leadership training, youth empowerment training, civic responsibility training from an online platform? Send us an SMS or a WhatsApp to 0703 165 0809 or 0706 402 0742. We would love to hear from you. And when you do try Rafiki AI, send us an SMS or a WhatsApp message to let us know how the experience went. Remember, the conversation does not end here. We have very active communities on Telegram and on WhatsApp, EdTech Mondays Nigeria. And in case you know anyone who has missed any of the episodes of EdTech Mondays Nigeria, do not worry, we have you covered. Hurry on to Spotify or YouTube, search for EdTech Mondays Nigeria on Spotify and on YouTube, CC Hub Africa, EdTech Mondays Nigeria. Until I come your way, same time, same station, I remain your host, Chinyelu Akpa. Keep using technology to push the frontiers on education. It's bye for now.
It's time for EdTech Mondays, brought to you by MasterCard Foundation and CC Hub.